The elevation log, absolutely one of my favorite tools to increase your self confidence, your success, your happiness, and positive impact in as little as 3 to 5 minutes a day. For many, many of you listening to this right now, there will be at least one concept that we will talk about that will be life changing for you, as it has been for me. I've been using the elevation log tool for at least 10 years, maybe closer to 15, and it has been a life changing tool for me. Let's jump right in. The elevation log is very simple. You're going to write down 5 things each day, and it can be done in as little as 3 to 5 minutes. When you get good at it, it can be as little as 3 minutes, up to five. Even at 5 minutes, there's no excuse not to do it because the impact is that great. Let's jump right in. The first thing you will write down is 3 things you are grateful for in the last 24 hours. 3 things you're grateful for. Could be big, could be small. It could be the same things almost every day, but you need to write down 3 things that you are grateful for in your personal life, in your professional life, or both. The second thing you will write down is 3 things that you did well in the last 24 hours. This is one of the greatest ways to boost your self-confidence. Remind yourself of things you're doing well, empirical evidence of things that you have done well, personally or professionally. Very few people do this, reminding themselves of things that they're doing well. And if you do, when you do, this will have a dramatically positive effect on your self-confidence. The third thing I'd like you to write down is your one most important goal in 3 key areas: in the areas of your health, in the area of your work/wealth, and the area of your relationship. So you'll write down your number one most important goal in each one of those 3 areas. Now, it's very important that you do it in this specific format. Number one, I want you to write it down as an I am statement. And number two, I want you to quantify it. Okay, write it down as I am, meaning that's who I am. I am that person already. And I want you to quantify it as much as possible. Let me give you specific examples. In the area of health, you can write down, I am an extremely healthy person who has a waistline of 30 inches. Okay, that's a quantification. I am this person. It could be, I am an extremely mentally healthy person with an average stress level of 3 or less each day. Okay, great examples in terms of health. In terms of your work, I am a 6-figure per year earning entrepreneur. I am a 10 out of 10 high impact teacher for my students. That's a great career example. In terms of your relationships, I am a 10 out of 10 wife and mother. Great way to quantify it. I am a 10 out of 10 wife or mother. And what I mean by that is in the eyes of your spouse and your children. Okay. But you would say, I am a 10 out of 10 wife or mother as judged by my spouse and my children. Great way to quantify relationships. So I want you to speak as if you are that by saying I am, and I want you to quantify that. Now, the number four thing you'll write down, and by the way, here's a great statistic on goal setting. I learned this from Dr. Jason Selk. He learned it from a professor named David Kohl, who is a professor emeritus at Virginia Tech University. And here's a great statistic. People who write down their goals are 9 times, that's 900% more likely to achieve their goals than those who don't. Okay, great statistic on writing down your goals. Number 4, I want you to write down your top 3 most important tasks each day, personally and professionally. Your top 1 to 3 most important tasks each day, 1 to 3 personally and 1 to 3 professionally. And I want you to plug them into your daily schedule or calendar, preferably a smartphone calendar, because you have it on you most likely at all times, versus a paper calendar. You don't have it on you at all times, most likely. So identify those top 1 or 2 or 3 tasks you must complete each day, personally and professionally, that line up with your top most important goals that we just identified. Let me give you, let's talk about the 80-20 principle, briefly also known as the Pareto principle, which I strongly suggest that when you're done listening or watching this, that you look it up on YouTube and watch a video on the 80-20 principle. Google it, understand it. Again, it's also known as the Pareto principle. And the 80-20 principle reveals that for many outcomes, approximately 80% of the end result comes from only 20% of the causes. Here's a great quote by Richard Koch. He wrote a book called the 80-20 principle, and he really made this principle famous. Richard says, very few things matter, but they matter enormously. Concentrate on the things that are most important. And that's what we're talking about in terms of our most important tasks that actually have the greatest impact. There's 1, 2, or 3 each day, one and no more than 3 that'll have the greatest impact. And lastly, here's a great question from Gary Keller. He's the co-founder of Keller Williams Real Estate. Gary's a billionaire now because of that. And it's called The Focusing Question from a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And the question is, what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? And I challenge you to look up and read one of these recommended resources on the 80-20 principle, because it will change your life. One book is called The 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch. The other book is called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And a third book is 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management by Kevin Kruse. So that is the 80-20 principle. And the tool is each day write down your top 1 or 2 or 3 most important tasks and plug them into your daily calendar. That includes going to the gym in the morning. Plug that into the calendar, or in the evening whenever you do it. That includes dinner with family, if that's your top most important relationship task for that day. Put that on the calendar and treat it like a doctor's appointment. Treat that exercise time or that relationship time with your family, friends, whatever it is, as sacred time, as if it was a doctor's appointment for you or one of your loved ones that you need to attend. Okay. Lastly, I want you to write down, here's the 5th thing you'll write down in your elevation log each day. And this is your top 1, 2, or 3, what I call power tools. These are also known as affirmations or mantras. I call them power tools. These are 2 to 5 word power statements that you make that serve as an anchor for you mentally in a storm when you're going through a difficult situation, and also a lighthouse in a storm about where you want to go. They'll guide you to where you want to go and the person you want to be. Let me give you some of my favorite examples. I've collected hundreds of these over the years. And I'm going to share with you some of my favorites that I use personally, as well as that my clients use. Number 1 is be your own best friend. Many people have said this phrase, this power tool, this mantra. I'll give credit to Dr. Gio Valiante, top performance psychologist. He shares this. Second one is always behave confidently. Learned this one from Cain, one of the top mental performance coaches in the world. For athletes and executives and business owners. That's who Brian works with. Another one by Cain. Be where your feet are. This is great if you want to be more present to the moment. Be where your feet are. Here's one from Navy SEAL Commander Mark Divine, a mentor of mine, wrote several best-selling books. Commander Divine says, breathe in positivity. Here's a great one from Dr. Susan Jeffers, wrote a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. She says, I can handle it. That's our power tool. I can handle it. So where does this come from? Dr. Jeffers says the root of all fear is I can't handle it. Therefore, the root of all self-confidence, the root of all calm is I can handle it. That's one of my all-time favorite power tools. I can handle it. Here's another great one from Dr. Jason Selk. Dr. Selk is a friend and mentor. I believe he is the number 1 expert in the world on high performance and success. Jason's one of the greatest performance experts and coaches in the world. And he wrote a book called Relentless Solution Focus, which I believe is a must read for every man, woman, and child. Our power tool is Relentless Solution Focus. Be happy now. This is from Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, arguably the greatest executive coach and one of the greatest experts on leadership and mental performance in the world. Be happy now. That's our power tool. And what it means is don't wait to be happy until you get the perfect relationship, the perfect job, when you acquire the house or the car, or whatever it is that you're waiting for. Be happy now. Be happy now, today. And two more here. Attitude of gratitude, once again, from Brian Cain, a great performance expert. And lastly, ask for help, from John Spence, wrote one of my all-time favorite books on business and leadership called Awesomely Simple. John's an expert on performance and success, and he says, ask for help. That's one of his most important pieces of advice, meaning ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help personally or professionally when you're struggling or when you're stuck. Let me give you a few stats on positivity to wrap this up. Because again, I want this elevation log to be both simple and science-based. I don't want this to be complicated, and I don't want this to be based on just my personal opinion on what works and what doesn't. This is simple, a simple science-based tool. Write these 5 things down every day. Take 3 to 5 minutes. This is what this tool is really about. It's a focusing tool to focus on what you want to happen and who you want to be. Right? And how you want to feel. This is a focusing tool. And I believe it's the ultimate focusing tool because we combine these 5 key things that we write down. You can also think about these things each day. You can write them down either first thing in the day or the end of the day, whenever you choose to complete the elevation log, or even both if you choose to. You can also think about these 5 things. You can go through this checklist of these 5 tools, these 5 things that you would write down, and just recite them in your mind, meaning I'm going to think about 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm going to think about 3 things I did well in the last 24 hours. I'm going to think about my 3 most important goals. I'm going to think about the most important tasks I need to complete today. Right? And I'm going to recite my power tools in my mind. You can think about that in 60 seconds. All right, great elevation log, apply it, write it down, and also recite it in your mind. Now, here's some great stats on positivity and a positive mindset. A positive mindset can increase your lifespan by up to 7 years. 85% of people who have a positive mindset on life experience significantly less depression and anxiety. And our third statistic is 87% of people with positive mindsets are more likely to live healthier lifestyles and make better choices for their health. Here's my challenge to you. Practice the elevation log for 5 days a week for the next 30 days. If you choose to do 7, great, even better. But at least 5 days a week, I challenge you to practice this elevation log tool in 3 to 5 minutes a day. Right? It is one of the most powerful practices I personally have and that I've learned from other great experts on performance. I combine this into a simple 5-step tool. Again, only 3 to 5 minutes a day. No excuses not to do it. My challenge to you is to do it 5 days a week for 30 days. And also share this with someone else who you think could use it. Share this audio or video with someone that you think you can use it, and do it together and hold each other accountable to complete this elevation log for 30 days. I wish you an elevated life of success, positive impact, and happiness.